Well, good afternoon. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for this press conference on the advancement of the Opportunity Scholarships Act, LB 295, from the Revenue Committee to General File. This marks a historic and significant moment for scholarship credit legislation specifically, and school choice legislation more broadly in Nebraska. With the advancement of the Opportunity Scholarships Act, lawmakers are telling Nebraskans, we hear you when it comes to school choice and empowering low and middle income families with educational opportunities for their children. The Opportunity Scholarships Act provides privately funded scholarships for low and middle income students to attend the private school of their choice. These scholarships are funded by private donations to qualified nonprofit scholarship granting organizations. In return, those who provide private donations could receive a tax credit on their state income tax bill. The merits of this legislation will be further detailed by various supporters and advocates. I want to especially thank the members of the Revenue Committee who supported advancing this critical piece of legislation to General File, Senators Jim Smith, Brett Lindstrom, Tyson Larson, Mike Groney, and Lydia Brosh. This is just the beginning of a great list of senators who support school choice efforts. We look forward to working with these senators while advancing the cause of tax credit scholarships and school choice for the 2018 legislative session. I also want to thank many of the advocates who are standing alongside of me: Missouri Synod Lutheran Church, Nebraska District, the Platt Institute, Americans for Prosperity, Educate Nebraska, School Choice Lincoln, Learn Coalition of Omaha, Nebraska Family Alliance, the Archdiocese of Omaha, the Diocese of Lincoln, and the Diocese of Grand Island. We are also joined by many great students, teachers, and administrators from local schools such as Lincoln Christian, St. Mary's, and Pius X High School. Be certain that all of us will work tirelessly on behalf of parents and families to ensure that their children, Nebraska's bright future, have true opportunity and choice to attend schools that will best meet their educational needs and desires. As chairman of the Revenue Committee and introducer of this legislation, Senator Jim Smith of Papillion sees the passage of the Opportunity Scholarships Act as, quote, a major milestone toward providing education choice, unquote. 2018 will be the year that Nebraska hits this major milestone and opens the door to greater educational opportunity for Nebraska's children. And with that said, I would just like to invite Senator Jim Smith, who has been the introducer of this bill and has been a great champion this year, and he will further introduce Senator Bob Krist, and who would introduce this in previous years. And so I just want to thank him for all of his efforts and his work, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here today. This is really a good time for Nebraska to be able to have the discussion on the floor of the legislature next year for school choice and for opportunity scholarships. And I'm going to keep my remarks fairly short today, but it's been a great privilege to be able to carry this piece of legislation and to work with those who embrace and support school choice in our state. But the legislation this year was really based on the tireless efforts of Senator Bob Krist over the last couple of years. I've learned a great deal from Senator Bob Krist with the legislation he has brought in past years, and I would like to, with that, yield my time to Senator Bob Krist to share a few words. And again, I cannot thank Bob Krist enough for his efforts in the past and for getting us to this point today. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. It goes back to 2009 with my predecessor, Mike Friend, with LB 67, and every odd year after that, 11, 13, 15, and now 17, where a piece of this legislation or a version has been introduced. It's taken a long time, and as most of you know, things that are very worthwhile usually do take a little bit of time to get to where we are. I thank Senator Smith, particularly in his position as chairman of the Revenue Committee, for bringing it forward and showing the support. Now the tough part starts. We're going to get it to the floor, and we're going to win on this thing in 2018. This represents a first step, I think, across the board in school choice, and I'm pretty proud to be part of this press conference today and to have had the number of years that I've had working with the great people that Tom has already mentioned. The Archdiocese of Omaha, I think, was the first that asked me to sponsor and introduce this piece of legislation. I guess No one's given me a 1-minute call yet, but that should be enough. If there are other senators here who would like to say something, I would welcome them to come up. Good. Well, thank you, and thank you again. We're here for questions if you have any.
Good afternoon. My name is Patrick Slattery. I'm the Superintendent of Schools for the Archdiocese of Omaha. In the past few years, we have welcomed in more than about 1,000 students, new students into the Archdiocese. And what that has shown for me personally is the demand from families in the state of Nebraska to find the right educational fit for their children. The demand has been tremendous with those 1,000 new students. Quite often, however, we struggle with all the financial resources we are able to find with donors to support that need. We have groups in town like the Children's Scholarship Fund that cannot meet the need of families that are asking for financial help. There are families in the state that do have a choice in education, and quite often that choice comes in the form of being able to afford to pay the tuition of the private school at their choice, or for other families, they might be lucky enough with opt-in enrollment on the public school side, and yet for others, they can buy a home and move to the public school district of their choice. But wealth and luck should not be the determining factors as to who gets a choice in finding the right educational fit for their child. One thing I want to make very clear, LB 295 and school choice, these topics, they don't equate to being anti-public school. I do want to thank our public school educators for the tremendous work they do. But at the end of the day, this conversation, this debate, it's not about public schools, it's not about private schools, it's not about the institutions, it's about empowering Nebraska parents to choose the right educational fit for their child. There is a wealth of research out there on the national level that show programs like this work. They're well received by the taxpayer, they're well received by parents, and we're excited again to bring this debate to the floor here in Nebraska. It is an exciting date. And it, again, is a bill that honors parents as the key decision makers in the education of their children. Thank you.
Next, we'll have, go ahead, Nicholas.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Heidelberg of St. Mary's School, and I just want to say how much I really love my school and how I'm able to choose what school I wanted to go to and learn about my Catholic education. And I love my mom for letting me go to this school because Jesus is great, you know? And I get a lot of opportunities at my school, like getting up here to talk to you guys and articles in the paper. So, school choice.
Okay. Thank you. Says it all.
Good afternoon. My name is Clare Morehouse, and I am a recent graduate of Pius X High School, prior to which I attended St. Joseph's Elementary School. During the last few weeks, I have had a lot of opportunity to reflect on the education and experiences I have had. I am so thankful for all I have learned and been able to do. I really couldn't have asked for a better school experience. Nebraska is fortunate to have a wonderful school system. Our city is full of institutions centered on academic development and achievement. For the last 2 years, I have been in the challenging yet exciting process of choosing a college to attend. Over and over again, I have been told to choose the university that is the right fit for me. I'm very excited to remain in Lincoln next fall and attend the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, which I believe is the best option for myself. Attending a grade school or high school, best for an individual child's needs, is also extremely important. I am confident that the schools I attended helped me to develop into a strong student and were the best schools for me. I'm thankful that attending Pius X and St. Joseph's were an option, and I hope all families in Nebraska will have the opportunity to send their children to the school which best fits their needs. These opportunity scholarships will help families to do just that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Litt. I'm the Nebraska Director of Americans for Prosperity. And at Americans for Prosperity, we believe that every child deserves a high-quality education, no matter their background. Every child needs a school where they can excel. And we know that even the best schools on paper are not always the best fits for every student, but a failing school is not a fit for any child. We have actively worked on advancing school choice legislation since the 2013 legislative session in order to give Nebraska families and their children more education options. We're excited that the Opportunity Scholarship Act has advanced from the Revenue Committee. And as you've heard and will hear about the great benefits of school choice, we just want to talk about one of those aspects. On the fiscal benefits to taxpayers and the terms of cost savings, a recent study from EdChoice found that tax credit scholarship programs save taxpayers between $1.7 billion and $3.4 billion through the 2013-2014 academic year. A 2016 meta-analysis of 100 studies on school choice found that school choice programs not only improve academic outcomes for students participating and for those in traditional public schools, but also that these programs save money, meaning money is not taken away from public schools and students across the board have better outcomes. There are 21 tax credit scholarship programs across the country existing in 17 states. 4 of our 6 neighbors have these types of programs. 4 of our 6 neighbors have school choice programs, and 3 of the 4 have tax credit scholarship programs. Nebraska ought to be the 18th state to enact tax credit scholarships in order to give students a brighter future and give fiscal relief to taxpayers and lawmakers. Thank you.
My name is Robert Ziegler. I work for the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod National School System. Here in our Nebraska district, we have 73 schools, 6,750 students, and 449 educators. I work for Superintendent Don Weber and our district president, the Reverend Richard Snow. Prior to returning to Nebraska 2 years ago, I served for 16 years as a principal in one of our Lutheran schools in the state of Florida. In that state, we were able to serve many children and families who struggled with poverty through the similar scholarship program put in place in Florida. The Lutheran schools in Nebraska could serve those children and families who struggle with poverty in greater numbers if Nebraska adopts LB 295. The Florida legislation has stood the test of time. It has stood through implementation and the judicial system. A nonpartisan report in Florida reported that Florida tax credit scholarships actually saved the state. For every dollar donated by corporations, the state of Florida saved $1.49. LB 295 enables more corporate philanthropy for children. The future workforce for our corporations here in the state of Nebraska and our future leaders in the United States. We're thankful to the Revenue Committee today for advancing the Opportunity Scholarship Act to the general file for debate in the entire legislature. We believe that LB 295 will empower families and the community to open a world of opportunity to students who might not otherwise have it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here and celebrate the advancement of LB 295 for Opportunity Scholarships to the general file with you today. I am a former K-12 private and public school parent in Nebraska and an education reform volunteer with School Choice Lincoln. My child attended Catholic schools in Omaha and Lincoln through the 5th grade. When he entered 6th grade, I decided it would be better for him to attend Lux Middle School in Lincoln Public Schools for their accelerated and advanced curriculum options. To my surprise, when we registered for public school, I was told he could not be in the accelerated program. In response, I paid a private company $400 to administer an IQ test for my son. He scored well above the standard score required to get into an accelerated program as specified in the LPS handbook. I went to the LPS district office and told them he qualified for acceptance under the criteria and I wanted him to be in the program. I was fortunate that I had the means to pursue my educational choice for my child. Even your Nebraska state senators and local school board members have opted to send their children to public and private schools and have assessed additional educational opportunities because they had the means to make quality choices for the best fit for the needs of their children. I know there are parents in Nebraska who want more choices to get the best possible educational fit for their child's one shot at a K-12 education, but they simply cannot afford them. LB 295 offers the opportunity for these parents to have more choices. And some of these examples include parents in low-income and diverse Nebraska zip codes with historically low-performing traditional public schools in our statewide assessments and national math and reading proficiency measures. Parents of students who will improve their academic performance in a curriculum, in a different curriculum, or a different social justice discipline atmosphere than the one-size-fits-all traditional public school that public schools offer, or special education parents who want more expanded options for their special needs children. Nebraska public schools are producing similar educational proficiency scores to our rival states, yet at a much higher price tag with slower improvement rates. Not only are the taxes used for education lower in our rival states, but the economic and political power granted to parents and of all income backgrounds in their education systems is greater. If Nebraska wants to retain and attract more working families, policymakers must address Nebraska's lack of equal access to high-quality education choices and the costs that translate into high property taxes for businesses and taxpayers like me. And in fact, in April 2017, Gallup found that 59% of American citizens support government funding for school choice programs that allow students to attend public or private schools. For all of these reasons and many more, I am thrilled that Nebraska has taken one step closer to adopting an innovative 21st century model that embraces equal opportunity for the highest quality education for students and smarter spending of taxpayer dollars. Now is the time to get LB 295 passed in the 2018 Nebraska legislature and join 45 other states that already offer some form of school choice.
I'd just like to once again just thank all of those folks who came out today, especially those in the media and our senators, our students, other administrators, parents. I think I forgot to mention my name's Tom Venzor. I'm the executive director for the Nebraska Catholic Conference. And so just want to thank all of you for coming out. And at this time, we are happy to take any questions about LB 295 and what we can do here in Nebraska to help empower parents and educate children.
Several people made the argument to save the state money. How does that work?
So that's a great question. Yeah. So the way you see a cost savings here is that when this LB 295 is intended to go to students who will be making the transfer from public schools to private schools or to non-public schools. So in doing so, when they make that transfer, what ends up happening is that there's a cost savings in the amount of education spending per child throughout the state. And so that's one way in which we see a cost savings to our education spending, because that student goes to a non-public school, and that's where those non-public schools and those parents will be paying for that student's education.
But with the tax credit, right?
Correct.
Aren't you whittling away your base of what you collect with taxes overall?
No, so the thing here with the tax credit is it's intended to incentivize individuals across the board, whether they're middle income folks, whether they come from small businesses, whether they come from corporations. So either way, their money's going to endeavors that are important to the state, whether that's to income tax revenues or whether that's to education expenses of children. So in either scenario, the state's benefiting from the contributions that are made by individuals. So the answer to that is that type of argument, that's not going to occur under this bill. And the important thing here to remember is that either way, an individual is either going to be giving their private dollars in state tax revenue, income tax revenue, or it's going to be going to these scholarship granting organizations who then turn around and give almost all of that money to low-income and middle-income families who are in need. So at the end of the day, that taxpayer is going to be out whatever their liability is going to be. So if they have a $1,000 liability, it's either going in income tax revenue or it's going to the scholarship granting organization. There's not going to be any profit. They're not going to get ahead by this legislation.
Do parochial schools and private schools need this funding to continue on?
Yeah, so I think I might actually let Patrick field this since he's more so in that realm in the day-to-day.
If I heard the question right, it's not a matter of the schools needing it. I again could attest to the fact that with so many families coming to us, we have maxed out the available scholarship help to serve the students that are coming to us. Same thing with Children's Scholarship Fund of Omaha, which I think right now meets about the 1,800 students receive financial assistance. They still cannot meet the full need of those asking. So a bill like this would create a new revenue stream to allow the schools to hire the additional staff and the supports for the students that are desiring coming in.
Another question?
What about tax incentives for people who send their children, whereas like the secondary education, college, you can get some tax credits for, but I am a parent of 6 that sends my children to actually middle school, but who sends my children to private school, and the cost is pretty significant over the course of the year. So in the future, are you looking towards maybe allowing some credits to come back towards the parents, or is that?
Yeah, so, under this bill, what we're intending to do is to create an environment where education choice and school choice, there's greater opportunities for that in the state. And so the intention under this bill is to continue empowering children or empowering parents so that they can get the best education suited for the needs of their child. And then obviously, in the future, there's been other legislative efforts this year, and I'm sure there will continue to be in the future efforts that try to expand more robust school choice opportunities. And so, we certainly, applaud and thank those senators and other folks who work hard on those efforts.
How do you make sure that this would also benefit special needs children?
So is that a question you want to, Brad?
Again, that's one of the common misconceptions with many of the non-public schools in the state. I can speak for our 70 schools in the Archdiocese of Omaha. We do serve a very diverse student population, including many students with learning differences. We have our Madonna School that actually partners with, we have I think 4 public school districts that send their students to our Catholic school because we're able to provide solid services at Madonna School. But programs like this in LB 295, when it does introduce a new revenue stream to help families choose the right educational fit, those dollars would end up finding their way to the schools, which ideally would allow them to hire the additional resources they need to support a more diverse student population. Many of the states that have enacted school choice legislation like this have seen private school diversity increase as a result.
In the past, we have tried to address the whole enchilada, if you will, addressing those parents who have sent their children to private schools, and it hasn't worked. As with all of the other school choice states, and I think these folks will agree with me, you've got to start someplace. And you have to start at a reasonable level, gather the data, have evidence-based information to move forward. This is the first step. And it's always been very tough to introduce bills like this, because the evidence-based information that we get from other states may not match what happens here in Nebraska. But if this works, I see this to be a great benefit. My daughter attended Madonna, and my daughter had a great education in the public school system in Texas and in Nebraska. But there came a point that she needed a little extra, and that was the place for her. So that was the choice that I was privileged enough to be able to give her. Now we can look at other children that need that same kind of help. But we're starting baby steps. and we should look at our progress in the next few years and look at furthering this kind of a program. Thank you.
Obviously, this bill will face significant opposition next year when it comes up. What do you two want to address? What you think the prospects are and will be prioritized?
Well, we never know what a year brings in Nebraska's politics and the legislature. Granted, there are many folks that have different opinions on opportunity scholarship and school choice. But I think that just being able to have this discussion on the floor of the legislature on general file, I think is a huge milestone for Nebraska. I'm optimistic that we can move this forward. I think this is good for our families, our children, and ultimately our businesses in Nebraska, and to be able to provide school choice. So let's see what a year brings, but I do anticipate that there will be some differences of opinion, but I'm optimistic that we can make the case for this.
Maybe one more question. One up. We'll take that too. All right, well, once again, thank you very much for coming out today for this press conference. And of course, if you have any questions for the individuals or you need to know names, feel free to come and ask me or Lauren Garcia right behind you all too, so we can help you get any of those needs. So once again, thank you very much. Have a great day.